to another episode of One Thing. I'm your host, Neil Bauer, and I'm here with the always lovely
Kim and Jody from ePayments.
Today we have a very special guest. He has played for, he was the first round draft pick for the New York Yankees in 2009. He has then gone on to play for the Athletics. He now actually is a founder of More Than Baseball, an organization dedicated to the support and fostering of minor league baseball, their players, and making sure that they have an equitable situation as they grow up into major league players. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Slade Heathcott.
Thank you for having me on. Nice to meet everyone.
Absolutely our pleasure. So Slade, what was, this isn't my one thing. What was it like getting that call being on the New York Yankees?
Well, from the age of 5, I played in the backyard and played wiffle ball and baseball and cup ball and handball, and everything was scenarios like playing in the big leagues, whether it was the St. Louis Cardinals when I was younger or the Texas Rangers for a while, and eventually the New York Yankees. But it's special. I mean, there's not words to describe something you worked for 20 years and then able to experience it. So it was amazing. I got called up while holding my son, feeding him at like 11:30 at night. So that was it's something that you cherish and hold on to.
Wow. So again, we've worked together in such different capacity, and that's where my one thing comes from. You've actually worked in an organization that's helping foster minor league players and making sure that it's equitable for minor leaguers, because to your point, minor league players are paid
nothing.
Effectively nothing. And then they're asked to do a tremendous amount of community work. They're asked to actually suffer through, I say suffer because you're living with generally a foster family, or you're living in a situation where you have to pay for equipment. You have to effectively survive while you're trying to chase this dream. So my one thing is, for somebody in that situation, somebody who is struggling and just trying to get through that mess, what's the one thing you'd tell them to keep them motivated, to keep them moving forward?
I feel like for the younger generations, I don't know if the word shelter, harbor, protect. I feel like the younger generations, when they see adversity, they fold. And the one thing that I try to talk about is, being positive is the key, right? But more than that is not giving up. When you do see adversity, when you do see failure is an event, not a person. In the game of baseball, you're failing every single day. And sometimes multiple times a day. I played the game for 20 years, and I'd walk out some days and be like, have I ever played this game? Like, I forgot how to swing. I don't know how to throw. And not only that, you're doing it in front of thousands of people, right? You fail every day in front of thousands of people, and it's something that you have to learn how to cope with. But I also think it's a skill that you can use and be able to, in life, things do not go according to plan, as we all probably know on this call, whether it's business plans, whether it's life plans. Things alter and change at any given moment. And sometimes the best things we can do is be adaptable. So to players, it's not give up, keep fighting, keep pushing, but let's also look, just as athletes, and that's where I'm going to speak from that perspective. As athletes, we've been told our whole life, you can't have a plan B because it takes away from plan A. And I think that's a load of crap, to say the least. Mm-hmm. And for players, as a minor leaguer that's making less than $10,000 a year before taxes, right? Like we know half of players go into debt every year, right? So what can they do? They can go out and we can complain and we can moan and we can say the system should be better, or we can go out and do something about it. And that's what we're trying to do at More Than Baseball is share a message that you can control your own future by doing things on your own, while also still focusing on your career, because bottom line is you have to make money and you have to eat, and you have to have somewhere to stay to be able to be good at your job.
But that is a perfect lead-in to my question. My one thing, since you have lived, I'm so sorry, guys, a roller coaster, I would say Major League Baseball, when I observed, it is a roller coaster because it is highs and lows, and you're getting called up and not getting called up, and kind of the same that you experience having your own company too and founding a business. what do you personally do to mentally prepare? I know for me, I have this routine I go through in the morning. I'm curious what you do personally to just get your mind right day in, day out to, keep the fight.
One of my biggest things I do, and it's kind of shifted since my son, I do a deal. I don't even know if I've ever even shared this. So when I'm in the car, I don't listen to music. I heard Zig Ziglar in one of his speeches back when he was still alive, and it was recorded, so I listened to it. He talked about Automobile University. And I know that as an athlete, I paid attention to my diet because what we put into our body is really the fuel that we're going to be burning out. And words are the exact same thing. The words that we put into our brains, the words that we listen to, are the words that are going to come out. So really trying to control in the morning, listening to a podcast. Right now, it's Jocko Willenick's Warrior Kid podcast. Just because
I listened to that too.
Yeah, I love it.
He was on Ed Millett, who I listened to a lot, and I loved him. His Timex watch, right?
3:50 in the morning every morning, but has some really good lessons in it. But just listening to, when I played, it was a little bit different. I would have 15 minutes of like highlights, right? Like as crazy as that would sound, but like visualizing yourself doing something sometimes is the first step in crossing the hurdle of actually doing it. So it's a mixture of podcasts, it's yoga, it's meditation, which I've definitely slacked off on. But when I was playing, the routine was meditation in the morning, my diet, my coffee, waking up at the same time, but then listening to the words we're listening to. If we keep listening to that, we're not going to do something, or we listen to people that are gossiping negative stuff all day long, or music's great and that's therapeutic, and there's definitely times for it. But for me, it's listening to podcasts that are teaching me something, that are making me grow, because I think one of the biggest thing in one of the fields that I work in is depression. And I believe depression sinks in when we have stagnant life. So if we're not growing and we're not experiencing new things, I feel like that's where depression comes from.
That's awesome. If you're like into putting good fuel into your body and that's what drives you, you should listen to our last episode featuring Tessa Edick from Farm On Foundation.
Definitely will.
She was awesome. She was talking about the way we not only bring food into our homes, but the way we are actually procuring foods that we actually eat is way backwards. And she'll go into people's homes who think they're eating right. She'll open up the fridge and throw everything out, saying like, you've got it, not only the food pyramid inverted, but you're not even on the same chart. What's really very strange, and ladies, I don't know if you're catching on to this, we work in entirely different industries.
Yes.
But the people we're bringing on are mentioning the same exact conversations.
I know.
With Zig Ziglar, like with these, basically, they're all using this positive engine, and it's fantastic. From a billionaire, from Encrypting Brilliance, Michael Karasman, like from him to somebody who's running a farm in upstate New York, to a Major League Baseball player, like all of these people are kind of share the same, oh my gosh, spiritual energetic harmony. So it's absolutely wonderful to see. So sorry on that diatribe. Geez,
no,
oh man.
I love it. It's a common thread. And that kind of brings me, I guess, to my question, because I was so curious how your brain actually works at this point from, I more than baseball, you are merging vets with players. You're getting your pilot's license, for Christ's sake. I was like, wow, look at this guy. What, at this point in your life, do people bring you these things, or does your brain, are you just like, okay, I did the baseball thing, this was my dream, but now it's going to help me segue into, you're talking about health and nutrition, you're helping people, you're helping vets, you're helping the younger generation that I think in the age of TikToks doesn't have that, positivity, and that failure is an event. I love that. I wrote that down. Not a thing, not what you are. So at this point, how does your brain work, and how do you choose what you're going to throw your energy into and move forward with?
Let me figure out how to make my long-winded response not long-winded.
To my long-winded question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Your answer should be longer than the question.
Right?
So let's time it. Where's that Timex?
One thing I learned in the game of baseball is people around you, everybody around you has different skills, right? And some of those skills are hyper focused, or some of them are here, or some of them are there. I've been told by mentors my whole life that I need to focus on one thing. That is not me. It's not. I don't know if it's a successful thing. I don't know. Right? I've been out of the game for 3 years now. I think that I'm happy with where I am. Right? I'm happy with, but I've done it by being involved with 5, 6, 7 things, and there is a ebb and flow to that. Right? I think Neil's probably caught on for the most part. I have a very different style than probably most people. It may seem like I'm really scattered out, but everything ends up tying back together. Like I've designed things to be, whether it's veterans, right, vets and players, or more than baseball, or my CB supplement, or my coffee shop. My coffee shop probably is the farthest out of different, just because it doesn't relate back to most of it. But everything that I work on, from children to baseball players to veterans, all come back to the same joining fact. I learned that right when I got out, I was told by a mentor I needed to focus on one thing. And I'm like, I'm not good at focusing on one thing. I'm really, really good at focusing on 5 things. And I'm really, really good at managing my schedule and able to get what I need done. And I use the ability to my network, right? To reach out. That's my skill, is having a network. Well, having a network and only being in one field is not a successful approach, in my personal opinion. So I don't focus on one thing. I have people that bring me stuff all the time, right? From investments to businesses to ideas. And then I start some, right? Players for the Planet. I'm CEO and executive advisor of Players for the Planet. I had nothing to do with starting that. I am a part of it. I Am More, my children's foundation. I was part of 3 people that started that organization. More Than Baseball, 3 people that started the organization. CB supplement, it got brought to me and I jumped into it. So I'm really in the mix of people bring stuff to me, I create things. Look, the reality is, whether we're in a nonprofit space, whether we're in a collagen space, whether we're coffee, we're all selling something, right? What's not avoided anymore, right? That's the nature of what we're doing. The other side of it is, when I grew up with the Yankees, they pounded keep quiet, keep quiet, keep quiet, keep quiet. I got out of the game and I started being more in the nonprofit space, and I started thinking there's a right way and a wrong way, right? The one thing I learned from Jeter was just because you're a very large name doesn't mean you aren't the most down to earth, legit person, consistent every single day.
It's funny. I wanted to tell you something. This is so a sidebar, but I know Derek Jeter and Jorge Posada because they played on the Columbus Clippers.
Yeah.
I'm from Ohio originally. Gotcha. So before they went up, and it's so funny because, just like you, nobody thinks about, that everybody spent time failing and being in the minor leagues. And it's a process. It's a process. Everything else in life.
And I think there's a lot between the entrepreneur, and I think minor leagues is a little bit different than most sports, right? And that's why I think the military side of things makes so much sense, because minor leaguers share a lot more in common with that lifestyle, right? Being away from your family so much, not having tons of money, right? Being on the road, substance abuse, alcohol abuse, things of that nature. So there's such a big overlap. And the thing that Jeter that taught me was you can be proud of what you're doing, and that's not a bad thing. But the Yankees drilled it into us, being proud, or cocky is the word to use, right? And there's a way to be confident, not cocky, and that's what Jeter said and taught me. But if we don't share what we're doing, how does anybody else join? That's my argument, right? I want to make an impact in the world, right? If that's one life, or whether it's 10,000 lives, I want to make an impact in the world. How do we make an impact in the world if we don't share what we're doing? And there's a right and a wrong way to do that.
Wow. I
was told to keep ideas to yourself because someone will steal your ideas. And just like a farmer, if a farmer is I'm not going to share my seeds, I've got to do, there are too many seeds to plant on a regular basis. So you're going to have ideas that never manifest themselves. it's best to share ideas to get them out there, especially if they're good ideas, and not fear that they get stolen, but hopes that somebody does do something with them and takes them out. So you were the catalyst to make that happen. You were the person who shared those seeds and somebody else made that happen. I think that's a phenomenal way to live. Also, let's go back to your mentor saying you need to focus on one thing. Well, guess what? You can check that off your list because you're on the one thing. This is all your whole life has been. You're here. You've done it.
Yeah, I'm on the one thing.
Lifelong
Just
dream.
didn't know what it was going to be.
You didn't even know.
Didn't even.